Hello everyone, this is JPL, and I'm back for another tier list. So yeah, this is gonna be a new series on my channel. I hope that this is gonna work out. This series would not be on a regular schedule. They will happen sporadically when I come up with a new idea for a tier list. So be patient if you're here for a constant basis. If you're here just for today's category, welcome. Today I'll be making a tier list for the different carnations of the Joker character. I am a huge fan of the Joker. He is one of my favorite characters in comics. Um, and part of the reason why is because I grew up with him in my childhood, like watching him in the movies, in the cartoon shows, and whatnot. And I would consider myself somewhat of a Joker fanatic. Not all the way. I love the Joker, as you can probably tell by my T-shirt, which I do love. And so today I decided, why don't I rank the many incarnations of the Joker there are out there. Now, I've not included every single one because there's a lot, and a lot of them do kind of seem to be similar enough to just not include, particularly in design, and I'm not going to be too picky on those. The main ones that I've not included in this list are from much older TV shows, like from the 60s. I've included one for reference, I think, yes. And besides that, nothing else. And then there's other Lego movies from Lego video games. I've not included them so much just because I did not really feel like talking about them so much. I feel like the Lego content of the Joker is in its own separate category than Joker. But going back to why I love Joker so much, I don't know. I just think that he's a fun character to grab onto. I love all versions of these Jokers. There's not really one version of these Jokers that I actually hate. I think that every time the Joker is on screen, in any medium, my eyes are immediately glued to him and his character, and I just want more from him. And so, in this list, it's a bit shorter than last time because I don't think this list really needs to be much bigger and shorter. So it's a bit more condensed. That way, it's much easier to rank for me. Now, in the bad category, when I think something is bad, I don't really think that it's terrible. I just think it's not my favorite. It could be a whole lot better in terms of vocal performance and also just costume design, and maybe even the animation, if I want to go real into it. So, yeah, why don't we get started in this list here? So starting off in the bad category, I am going to immediately include the Batman Ninja version of the Joker. I was not a big fan of the Batman Ninja movie. I think is really weird, and part of it has to come from the fact of its animation. I really did not like its 3D animation. The Batman as an anime, I think, could work, but it works much better as a 2D animation. When you make Batman 3D, it doesn't really work so often. The only times I've seen Batman work in a 3D model is in video games. Any other models, such as Beware the Batman, just did not look too pretty. And so Batman looked fine in this movie, but the Joker, part of the Joker has also to do with how they changed his character design to look more like feudal Japan. And maybe it works in 2D more, but in 3D, it just looks pretty gross. And so the next version of the character of the Joker, I am going to include the Joker from the Lego Batman movie. Part of this reason why is I'm not a big fan of the Lego Batman movie, or any Lego movie that came out after the first one. I feel like the writing in them had changed since the first one, and just the overall quality of the humor in it just didn't really catch my attention. I think the first one was really good, but after the first one, I don't think they were that great afterwards. I think it was a one-hit wonder that other people enjoyed it afterwards, and that's good for them, but I don't really feel like that movie was good, and I don't really feel like this was a good incarnation of the Joker character. Partly because his actor Zach Galifianakis just didn't really sound like a Joker character. He just sounded like a typical character. He actually sounded like a minion from Megamind, which he's not the same actor from that movie, and yet they sound so similar. And so that's just how I feel about him. Next up, I'm going to include the Joker from the Birds of Prey TV series. And the reason why is because we don't really get much of his character. I think if we got to see him more in the TV show as an actual character, I think he could maybe be a much higher version of the Joker. He's voiced by Mark Hamill, but performed by a different guy. I think it's a cool concept, but we only see him in this blurry flashback, and that's it. He's only in it for like 10 seconds. Not a whole lot of time to get to know a character. But it's not the worst, but it could definitely be so much better. Next up is probably one that a lot of people could agree with, and that is the Titan version of the Joker from Arkham Asylum. Part of it has to come with the fact that this was the final boss battle of the game, and it was the only time we got to play against the Joker in that game. And it was like you wanted to have this final boss battle with the actual Joker in his original model, but he is in this giant creature-looking monster, if that even makes sense. That's just pretty ugly to look at and not the best design. The overall science of that character doesn't make too much sense, how he can actually talk and be somewhat intelligent versus the other monsters were just and ran against Batman and all that fun stuff. So yeah, I think everyone mostly agrees with that one. And so on my next one here, I'm not sure if I totally agree with this version of the character. And so my next bad version of the character, would have to be the Joker from the New Adventures of Batman, way back in the 60s, 70s, 80s, or cartoon show. And the reason why I'm including him here is because this design really shows his age. It's not a timeless design. It really shows the time period where it came from. Yes, it looks like the Joker, but it obviously comes from a much older animation time period where it's very limited in art style and animation, and overall, I think it looks a lot like its campy comic book versions, but besides that, not the best looking character. I think the last version of the character that I'm going to include in the bad category would have to be the Joker design from Injustice 2. And the reason why is because that design doesn't exactly make a whole lot of sense. They redesigned Joker in that game and gave him this new look. However, in that universe where he was in, the Joker was dead, and he was dead with a specific design, which was not that. And so when you gave him that design, it's like, what is that design? Why is that there? He's fun. He's fun in the game. However, that design just didn't really work for the Joker as much as his previous designs. So, not the best design for. I lied. So that my next bad design for the Joker would have to be the Jester from the Crisis on Two Earths Justice League movie. And the reason why I'm saying that he's bad is because technically he's not the Joker. He's an alternate universe's version of the Joker. He doesn't really go by the name of Joker, and he isn't really the Joker in this version. He's a superhero in this version. He's in a Harlequin or a Jester outfit. So on a technical level, he's not the Joker, and so that's why I'm putting him in the bottom, because he's not exactly the Joker. The next category I'm going to be going over is the meh category, where I think a costume or performer is meh. It's just below okay. I don't think that they're the best version. I don't think they're the worst. They're meh. That's the general feeling I get after seeing those versions of the Joker. There's not many that I'm going to include on this version of the list. And so for this version, I am going to include, if I can find it, the Mortal Kombat versus DC Universe Joker. Just because I think that this wasn't the best version of their Joker. It was definitely the early versions that this company would do for this Joker, because his Joker, this actor specifically, did improve much better in their later games that they did the Injustice games, and so I am going to actually include the Injustice Joker just because it's the same actor in the okay category for now. Injustice, it's not my favorite version of the Joker. I'm more familiar with Mark Hamill, and I think Mark Hamill would have done great for this Joker, and because Mark Hamill is such an iconic voice, this guy does a good job at making his own Joker, and he's funny at times as well. But he's not my favorite Joker, and in the end, it's all our own personal opinion, so don't take it as a fact that I hate this character. I don't. I like him, but he's not my favorite. So my next character in the meh category is not one that I actually think is meh, but it's more so a character that I'm mainly unfamiliar with. This is the Joker that comes from the Telltale games, where I believe in that game he was called John Doe originally. And so, the thing about that is I've only seen that character from the first season of the Batman Telltale game, where he isn't in this Joker incarnation. So I've not exactly seen him how he turns out as the Joker. At first glance, he has the mainly iconic design, except some different variations in the hair and the eyes. The voice acting is decent. It's not my favorite version of the Joker, which we'll all get to, and I think we all have somewhat the same favorites. And so, on first opinion, I think he does an okay job, and he certainly makes his an original Joker for what he does, especially in the first part. So we'll see after, when I actually get to see what he does in the second season. So the next version of the Joker that I'm going to include here would be the first Jeremiah Valeska Joker. So this comes from the Gotham TV show, which I really enjoyed Gotham. I think it's one of the few TV shows that doesn't get me bored while watching it. And there's a lot of TV shows that have filler, or just in the middle of the episodes, I just like, okay, let's move on. I want the episode to end. I think that Gotham does a good job in keeping me intrigued on everything that goes on in the show. And that kind of wavers towards the end story wise, but the history on this character, the Joker, Jeremiah Valeska, is spoilers for Gotham. Um, you can skip on ahead a few minutes just so we can get going there. But Jeremiah Valeska was the twin brother of the Jerome version of the Joker. Um, and I'll get into the Jerome character much later because he's technically yes and no the Joker. It really depends on how you view it, but Jeremiah Valeska is officially Gotham's Joker. And so this is his first appearance after Jerome gave him his toxin that turns his skin white, gives him a bit of lipstick and whatnot. And semi-green hair. The reason why I'm including him in the mag category is I like the actor, but I think that design didn't really do him much, and the actor's performance for Jeremiah is completely different from Jerome. It helps to create this, making Jeremiah his character separate from Jerome, making it his own character. However, it's kind of a bit more monotone, more sadistically creepy, more like a Hannibal Lecter type of character than the actual Joker or Jeremiah version of the character. Jerome version of the character, which I think I prefer of the two versions. And to include to that design is going to be his final appearance as Jay. And the reason why I'm including Jay as part of this is because this is Gotham's final so far version of the Joker. He's still technically not called the Joker because, legally speaking, Gotham was not allowed to use the character of the Joker. However, they did it anyway without even calling him the Joker, and yet the character was clearly and obviously the Joker. So I don't know how they got away with doing it, but in the end, that was part of the reason why they created Jeremiah, was so they can help get out of the copyright dispute, and so they created Jeremiah. However, in doing so, they made the character look more like the Joker. However, his performance is much different. This Joker Jeremiah version, I think, he did a fantastic job in doing the character. I think the reason why I'm putting him in the mag category is because his design, I don't really love. I think part of what makes his character great is that his hair isn't his hair. He's pretty much bald. We don't have that green hair that we know from the Joker, and so when you take away that part and just give us a bald, ugly-looking Joker, yes, well, I think everything else looks good. The face, it needs to have a certain iconicness to it. And when you take apart a certain piece of that iconicness from him, it just looks weird. And so that's why that version of Jeremiah is in my mag category. So the next version in the mag category is probably what everyone expects, is the Jared Leto. I actually think people would expect him to appear more in the bad version, but I don't hate Jared Leto's version of the Joker. I think it's sad that he doesn't really get the time to actually shine and become his own version of the Joker. Most of his time as the Joker was cut from the movie, and I'm very curious to see if they had included those scenes, what would he have looked like in the end. I don't hate it. I think it was an interesting version, but I think that it could have been much better. Part of my immediately dislike of his character is just the design wise. He has the ugly grilled teeth. He has the tattoos, which tattoos on Joker I don't think work out too well. I mean, who you can't say. I mean, who's to say that the Joker doesn't get a cat too? I mean, character-wise, people can choose their own thing. But I think on the Joker, they don't really look too good on him, and they're not really an aspect of his memorable character-wise. And so, for the Joker, the have tattoos, especially in this movie, I don't think it worked out too well. I think it took away from the iconic design, but the performance as well was weird, but I think that it wasn't the worst. It wasn't terrible as people seem to put out to him, and so I feel bad for the actor. I think that he really maybe enjoyed doing the version of the Joker. I feel bad that he is taken out from the movie for a lot of the time here, but I don't hate him. I thought he was okay, but I really wanted to see more of his character and actually do something in the story instead of just him being there and not really doing anything. So yeah. Next on the meh category is actually probably one of the more unknown versions of the Joker, and that's the son of the Joker from Batman the Brave and the Bold. Now, he isn't the biological son of Joker. Joker just found this guy and pretty much made him the second Joker. This came from Joker being an old man. He creates this new Joker, and the general appeal of this Joker is that he's a much more darker version of the Joker than the Brave and the Bold Joker was. This one actually kills, and I think he kills maybe one of the Robins, his parents or something. I believe that was the general storyline. But he doesn't really leave much of an impression. He has a different design than the normal Brave and the Bold Joker, but I don't remember much of his character, which doesn't really speak much of him. So yeah, that's why I consider him a meh category. Next up on the meh list here is actually going to be the Troy Baker Joker from the Batman Unlimited movies or show series. So I actually really like Troy Baker as the Joker. I think he does a fantastic job. The problem I have with this Joker specifically doesn't really come from his performance or writing. It just comes from his design. I think that his nose is way too long. He looks like Pinocchio or a bird or something. And his hair just... It just doesn't really look the best. So the overall design of that Joker, it's not my favorite. It just doesn't really look like a good Joker design. Besides that, I think he's good, but because of that design, he's a meh for me. So the last meh I'm going to include is the Joker that comes from a commercial. I believe it's an airbag commercial. So this Joker only has 30 seconds, but his design is actually not half bad. I think the face looks good. The hair is what I think makes this character more of a meh. It's just shaggy hair. It doesn't really look too good with this Joker. I think the prosthetic wise on this character is actually pretty decent. The smile, not the best. Looks creepy, which does a good job for the Joker, but it's not the best look for the Joker in general. With that, I believe we're going to move into the okay category of the Joker. And so, the first okay version of the Joker I am going to include is the Joker from Batman Hush. And the reason why is because I didn't really like his performance, his actor. I think that for the most part he creates this. The writing of the character is decent. It works out, but overall, I didn't really care for the performance, especially because this is the first time we actually get to see this Joker in the DC movie universe. actually the animated movie universe that they had been going. He's been teased in past movies, so this is the first time we get to see him in this movie. It's not the best movie. I like some parts of it, but the Joker, I think he has a lot of fun lines in this movie, but the overall performance of him, not the best, and that's why I think he was just an okay version. I still loved him. I still liked watching him, but I thought he was just okay in the end. So the next okay version of the Joker comes from the Harley Quinn animated series. He's voiced by Alan Tudyk, which I do love as an actor, and I think he does a great job in doing this Joker performance. I really enjoyed him as this character, but I think the thing that really turns him down as the version of the Joker is just his design. I don't like his haircut. A lot of my dislikes for the Joker characters will happen because of the haircut designs. Some designs don't really work more than others. This one, I think, works better than most of the dislikes. Excuse me. And the reason why I don't like it is because it's much more modern Joker hairstyle, where they kind of do that. How would you call it? Basketball player look, where you kind of shave or have like a buzz cut down here and a more growth on top. I don't really care for that design, especially in the Joker. It doesn't really look good. I think part of the Joker design should include some good sideburns, which there is a episode in the animated series where Joker's like, "Hey, watch the sideburns," or "leave the sideburns," which this Joker really should have left the sideburns and just really kept his hair more grown. But it works for that Harley Quinn TV series, which was going for a much more modern setting, but he's not my favorite Joker. I think I would prefer a lot of these other Jokers more than him, but I think his design, besides the hair, is pretty solid, and the performer does another solid job, and so that's why I think he's okay. So the next okay version of the Joker is actually going to be the Joker from Batman Beyond Return of the Joker. And again, it's not because of the actor. The actor's great, but a lot of it has to do with his hair. And in this one, he just has really short hair, almost a buzz cut, which doesn't look good on the Joker. His costume design is also just meh. It's just this purple thing. It's not a jacket. It's just a thing. And so it doesn't really... The design doesn't look good. The acting is fantastic. It's one of course, it's Mark Hamill, the best version of the Joker, period. But sadly, that design did not work well for Hamill. And so I guess another okay design and the voice of Hamill, I'm also going to include his Justice League action version of the Joker. The art style is not my favorite. It's very simple. And I guess very kiddish, which is what they were going for. It is a kid show. Again, the performance and the writing for this character is fantastic. There's a Joker short with him, Mark Hamill, and the Trickster, like the actual Mark Hamill as a character, and it's one of the best little shorts of the Joker that you can have. And it's really funny. I highly recommend you check that out. But yeah, I enjoy this version of the Joker. I love him every time he's on screen. But again, that design, while it is appealing, I think that it kind of turns them down. It turns a lot of those character designs down, especially. Part of it has to do with that really face looking chin. I don't know what I'm saying there. But the next one that's okay is going to be the Joker from Young Justice. I actually really like his character in Young Justice. I think most people generally care for him. He's voiced by Brent Spiner, who was Data from The Next Generation. He does an okay job voicing the Joker here. He doesn't exactly sound like the Joker. He sounds different, which different is good depending on the style. But for this style, it's not the best. The laugh is not the best for the Joker, but I remember when I first saw him in the episode, I had no idea he was going to be in the show. And so when he showed up in the episode, it was like, this episode is like already could be one of my favorites just because the Joker was in it. And so overall, I think he acts really good at design, especially for Young Justice. The hair is different. It's not a traditional Joker look, but it works for this look. And I love that he's very handy with knives in this show. He's only in one episode. I wish he would be in more, but what can you do? So the next okay version of the Joker, which I should have done before, is actually going to be another Mark Hamill Joker. And this is from Batman the Animated Series, when they redesigned the Joker character. They redesigned all the characters. And pretty much he's the exact same Joker from the animated series, except they took away his red iconic lipstick, his red smile, and that's what really throws us off from his character. I don't think it looks the best without it, but I still think that he looks okay. I still enjoy him. I think he's fantastic. Especially in his lines in episodes. He's really cool, really creepy. I still love it, but I do wish he did have that red smile. I think would make his design more complete. I don't hate it, but it looks like it could use a bit more. So my last okay version of the Joker is actually going to be the second Jerome Valeska Joker. And the reason why I say that is because in the show, spoilers, the first Jerome, he dies in the second season, which was a big mistake. And so they brought him back to life in the second season, but his face was cut off. And so the Joker, he gets his face back, and it staples on, and it doesn't look the best. I think it does a good job at tying into one of the comic designs, which I appreciate it for tying into the comics, but the reason why I think it was okay was because I think it took away from that character, the Joker, the non-Joker Joker. Because at that point in the show, like, we had all assumed that he was going to grow up to be the Joker. However, I was slightly disappointed that he wouldn't be his official Joker design, and then he gets his face torn off. He gets his face torn off, and it's like they pretty much used some aspect from the comic books in the show, which I kind of wish Gotham didn't do that so much, because I kind of wanted them to leave room for that stuff for when Bruce actually became Batman. Instead, they did a lot of Batman stories before he became Batman, which meant that Batman doesn't get to interact with a lot of these characters, which is kind of sad and upsetting, but we can work with it. Okay, moving on to the good category. First up, I am going to include the Joker from the Dark Knight Returns movie. I really like this Joker. I'm not sure what other people's opinion are of this Joker. He has a very different voice than he does in almost anything. He's voiced by Michael Emerson, the guy from Benjamin Linus from Lost. And so he has that voice, and I think it works really well for this version of the Joker, especially with that design that they had for him. Oh crap, I forgot one. And so yeah, I think that's good. And I forgot one Joker here that's not on this list here that I would also put in the good category, and that would be the Joker from uh, the the Killing Joke. That movie, I think half of that movie is good. The second half, the actual Killing Joke portion of the movie, is really good. But I think in terms of the Joker design, I think that it's a good design, but it's not the best design for that Joker. I can't actually show you what the image looks like at all, but yeah, that's where I would put him. Another good design for the Joker would have to be from the Return of the Cape Crusaders movie, and this is pretty much the exact same as the Cesar Romero Joker, in animated form. This actor does a fantastic job at recreating Cesar Romero, and I loved it. It was so much fun. Like it's almost as if it's Cesar Romero, but it's not exactly. But it's great. It's almost perfect. Another good Joker design would have to be the Joker from the Assault on Arkham movie. Again, this is voiced by Troy Baker, which is a good job, and I like him in this. I think that the Arkham design lends itself well in animation, but I think that some of the writing for this character didn't exactly work out too well. That movie is not my favorite. I love the Joker scenes, but I don't think that his character was at his best in this movie. And so that's why I think he's good, but not quite the great or the best. Next up would be the John DiMaggio Joker from the Under the Red Hood movie. I think John DiMaggio does a great job in this Joker. He tries to imitate Mark Hamill. You could clearly tell that, and I think he pulls off a decent job, not at recreating Mark Hamill, but as this Joker. I really liked it. I like the humor in him. I like the sadisticness in him. I'm not a big fan of his overall design. I think it has the basic Joker features, but I think the thing about him that I don't really like is that there's some lines on him that make him look old, which I don't really think should have been there. I think if you take away some of those lines and make him look a bit younger, I think it looked perfect. The next good Joker comes from the Batman TV show, which I think is really underrated. I think that of these Joker designs, this one is actually pretty weird in terms of its art style. The Joker has really long hair, which I'm not really big with Joker having the long hair, but however, that design for some reason doesn't bother me. I think it looks good. It works well for this Joker voiced by Kevin Michael Robinson, and I enjoy him. So the next good version of the Joker comes from Batman the Brave and the Bold. And so the thing about this Joker is that he's stylized after pretty much this Joker from the Golden Age of comics, or was it the Silver Age? It's one of those two. And so he's really goofy. He's really gimmicky, but he's supposed to be written that way, and I think it works out that way. The voice actor, Jeff Bennett, does a good job at creating this style of the Joker. While it's not my favorite Joker voice, I think it works out. I think it works good. I really appreciate this Joker for what he tries to do. And so whenever he's on screen, I love him because he's so much fun. And so my last good version of the Joker would have to go to Cameron Monaghan and his Jerome character. I think that Cameron Monaghan, looks like the Joker. I think he does a fantastic job in that show. And I think I really would have wanted him to be up higher on this list, but the reason why he's not is because, technically speaking, he's not the Joker. He's Jerome. And this Joker does not have his iconic makeup. He has a good hair design that looks for the Joker. He has a nice smile. He has a nice voice. A good performance from him. The laugh is great. But besides all that, I think that he's not the Joker. Because because in the end, he's not the Joker. He's Jerome. And that's why he's good, but almost great. I think that this actor, when he gets older, should play the Joker again properly with the full Joker makeup. Not this weird one, but an actual Joker. And so I think that that would be great. Speaking of great Jokers, we have a few here. So let's start with probably the very first live-action appearance of the Joker, Cesar Romero. I love him. I love that 60s Batman show. I love this guy's incarnation. He's so happy. He's so charmful. He's a classic. And also he's the guy with the mustache that was painted over, which is fun and really cool. So I really love his Joker. I think it's classic and iconic, and I really love it. Next would be the Troy Baker Joker from the Arkham Origins game. I'm not a big fan of that game, especially for the story and how it retcons some things. But overall, I think this is a good Joker. Troy Baker does an excellent job at creating a younger version of Mark Hamill's Joker. And so when I first heard him, I thought, yeah, he's really good. And I would like to hear more Troy Baker in the Joker. And more performances. And so with what we have here, he does a great job, and I love him. I love his design in this. I think it's pretty nifty and cool. Next up, I will include a Heath Ledger Joker from the Dark Knight movie. I think that he's probably one of the most iconic Jokers in live action that we have here. I think almost everyone loves this Joker. He's not my favorite Joker. I think this actor has a good performance of this character. But as a Joker, I think that part of his design looks weird, especially the hair. It's curly. It's not a traditional Joker look. I think it works out for this character. But generally speaking, Heath Ledger is not my go-to when I think of Joker. He had this great performance. Definitely something to look at, but in terms of Jokers, not my number one choice for Joker. Next would be the Joaquin Phoenix version of the Joker. I loved the Joker movie. I thought it was fantastic. I really loved this performance that he did. He didn't really become the Joker until the end of the movie. Didn't have that full makeup. Again, this is the Joker that's very unique in his just costume choice. Instead of having that classic purple look, he has this red suit. He has this blue makeup, this thing on his nose and his eyebrows. It's pretty much his first look as the Joker. And I think it just looks great. It looked really good. It was weird at first, but once I really looked more at him, I thought, you know what, this design really looks good. It looks unique for this character, and it works well for this character. If I were to compare it to the traditional Joker design, of course, I would go with that traditional design, but I think this one looks just as good. Up next is probably my favorite live-action version of the Joker, and that's Jack Nicholson from the 1989 Batman movie. I really loved him. I thought he was really cool. That Tim Burton Batman, I think he has a really good design. He's a bit of a mafia gangster. And I think he was a good Joker to have, especially in live action. I don't think in terms of a live action Joker, there hasn't been another Joker to meet his style. I think he was both dark and funny at the same time, which is what these Jokers should have. And so I think that he almost perfectly nailed what Joker should be. And so I think that's a good props onto him. And so my last three Jokers I have here are all voiced by Mark Hamill. But if I were to rank them into what I think are better, I'd say the first one would be Batman the Animated Series. This is when Mark Hamill was still relatively young as the Joker, and so his voice was still good. It's still the Joker, but I think that as he grew more into the character, the more he does it, the more he goes older with the character, the better the Joker sounds. And so his design looks good, but it still looks it could use a better design, which I think the best actual design for the Joker came from this design here that came from the Batman Beyond Return of the Joker movie, and that flashback, which I think that's the coolest the Joker has ever looked. Just that one shot, I think that's just the best that Joker has looked. And it's pretty much the exact same Joker design they used for the Justice League and Static Shock, which is why I did not include them in this list. So that general design, I think, is the best for that version of the character. And again, that vocal performance is fantastic, and I loved it. And so the last version of the Joker I'm going to include is from the Arkham games. I really love Batman and the Arkham games. And so, for this Joker, I think that this is the perfect Joker performance. The best from Mark Hamill. I think at this point, his voice has reached a good maturity. Much older Joker voice. He's a much older guy at this point than he was in Batman the Animated Series. And so at this point, I think that his voice was perfect for this Joker. And I loved it. I loved everything that this Joker does from here on out. I love Mark Hamill's performance from all of that. It sounds the most perfect for me. I think the design works really well for the Joker. I love it. It's one of the few times in the 3D and cartoony that the Joker looks fantastic. And I love it. It's definitely my best and my favorite version of the Joker out there. And so yeah, that's my ranking here. A decent ranking, and just tell me, what do you guys think? Do you agree mostly with this leak? You disagree? Let me know. So yeah, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you all next time. Bye.